Yeah, this is Bang Bang Rail. Please press the like button and subscribe. Yeah, I was talking to some people today, and we was just talking about the old times. Listen, I don't think there's anybody, and I mean this, anybody on the podcast at the minute that know prisons like I do. Yeah, like Ballstalls, YPs, made up to be a star, them sort of things. Yeah, and well, when I in the 60s, drugs, you're mad, you know. There was never such thing as drugs in prison. Smoke, I don't think really was about in days. Um, ease, not definitely not about. Um, speed, maybe not about in prisons. Coke, maybe, but not about in prisons. You could not get any drugs in prison, and if you did, in my days, yeah, if those drugs come in my prisons in my days, you get killed. You get smashed to pieces, mate. You wouldn't allow to take drugs in the prison, mate. They'd kill you stone dead. You would get so hurt, it'd be unbelievable. You'd get smashed to bits. And then my YP, same thing. Drugs never. Puff never. Ease never. Any fat amphetamines never. You get same thing. If anybody found out you was doing it and he come over, mate, you get smashed to pieces. Today, well, it's different, but I'm on about my days, yeah. There isn't anybody online now that's gone through the stages I've gone through and how much prison I've done. No one. So no one can really talk about it. Let me tell you something, yeah. Even when I moved up to be a star, when I was in a big prison, there wasn't no drugs. I'm on about early 70s, 69, 70s. There wasn't any drugs, mate. There was no drugs in prison whatsoever, right? And if there was any drugs, you would get bashed up, mate. You'd get smashed to pieces. Drugs, you're mad. You're mad. People could listen. People could just about fall a fag. Roll-ups, the black tobacco. People could just about afford that about drugs, mate. No way could people afford drugs anyway. It come about, I think, in about 1970, 74, 73, 74, when I got my bird again, and I was in the scrubs. Then I was hearing things about a thing called speed and acid tabs. It wasn't no puff. I never heard anything about puff. There wasn't no puff about. It was all about acid and speed. Yeah, that would be. But honestly, even then, people had to be very cautious, yeah, because they would get smashed to pieces by cons bringing drugs into a prison. You know what I mean? Getting drugs into prison. Prisons like now, I mean, come on, it's gone fucking mad, isn't it? It's gone crazy. But maybe later on, I think in about the 74s marks, when I went to Albany, people like John and Parky Barry, the Barry brothers who took over from the Crays, uh, they they used to bring acid tabs into the prison through King Edward cigar tubes, greasing them up, putting them up their backside, and bringing them in. That was the only ones I've ever seen. Acid, yeah, and people used to go after nut on acid and maybe a bit of speed. But really, it wasn't really liked, you know what I mean? It wasn't even though everybody took it, you know what I mean? It wasn't really one of them things, yeah. And then maybe later in the late 70s, uh, the puff started to come in slowly, but very slowly. Um, Black, it was usually black, nothing about green. It was all black, yeah, black. And what was the other one? Oh, what was the other one? They used to drink? Lebanese and black. That was to come in quite a lot because when I was in Lewis prison, uh, I noticed a lot of people smoking black, bringing it in, and Lebanese bringing it in, but not a lot. You know what I mean? It was just about. It wasn't so much, and people wasn't that getting that out of there, not that much. There wasn't much trouble in prisons because of that, and there wasn't people taking liberties, and all paedophiles, nonce cases, and them sort of people would go in the block. They would be in the block. Now Paedophiles, nonces, sex offenders, they're on the wing. These people that sell drugs, they're around lots of people, that they're ruled of prison in a way. They make sure them people are looked after because they spend money on drugs. So they won't let them go down the block. They keep them up from the block, and they know they sell drugs. They buy drugs, and they look after them. Fair play to them, mate. Eh? Looking after paedophile nonsense. Well done, mate. If you're watching this podcast, well done, yeah? In my days, mate, you'd get smashed to pieces for that, you know what I mean? But that's what they do today, isn't it? You know, like, say about the 80s, beginning 80s, it really started coming in. Cannabis. Uh, cannabis, well, I'm on about the four befores. It used to come in like no one's business, you know what I mean? And the leb, the black, everything used to come in, you know what I mean? And then the prisons all of a sudden become crazy, and people started smashing each other to pieces, bashing each other up because he hadn't paid that bill, he hadn't paid that bill, and it was off. This is what prisons gone mad for. Everybody fighting everybody over drugs, yeah? In my days, you didn't fight over drugs, mate. You just fight over the territory. Yeah, who was the boss? And it was the government there. You know what I mean? And you get your bits and pieces. Who was the boss? None of these drugs turn out. You know what I mean? Today, you go in prisons like it's drugs, 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 drugs. It's all about drugs, and it's never gonna end. It's gonna get worse and worse and worse. I mean, what am I ending my bird? Yeah, what am I ending my bird? I couldn't believe it. You know, I was in the Mount prison, and there was so much drugs in there, mate. I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. They had to put nets across the whole prison to stop the people chucking it over in balls, footballs, tennis balls, anything. Yeah, they had to put big nets up, and then all of a sudden they're still getting it in because they're getting it through the screws. Aren't they? The screws are bringing it in. The cons are made out. It's the cons' fault. It's the screws that are bringing it in to sell it. Yeah, the screws are only fortunes. The cons are only fortunes. Yeah. I mean, you can go in prison now, right, with what, an ounce of something, an ounce of this. I mean, they're even going to prison, ounce of crack, ounce of coke, ounce of puff, coming out like 30, 40 grand later because they're selling it, buying it, and selling it and buying it in prison. They're coming out rich people, and that's what a lot of people now go in prison to earn more money in there than what they do on the street. You know what I mean? So you buy a draw in prison, like it might cost you 40 quid. Out on the street, it costs you a tenner. So that's the sort of money they're earning, yeah, in prison. I mean, when I went to the Conor Bear in the Scrubs, when I got my IPP, before I got my IPP actually, I went there to Conor Bear, and to see the people that were on drugs, yeah, mostly on crack cocaine, heroin. I mean, heroin was in there like it was rife. It was all floating around the prison with heroin, yeah. But when I was in there, I mean, it was crazy. When I say crazy, people like on the Conor unit, I worked on this drugs unit, yeah. People getting their drugs, uh, like to try and get them off heroin or get them off the pub, getting in their mouth, keeping it in their mouth under the tongue, and then getting out and spitting it in a cup of tea, and they're spitting it in their tea, and they keep that tea in a cell, and they do the same thing the next day, and the same the next day, and they do it 4 or 5 times, and they sell that cup of tea to someone. Like, come on, mate. You talk about AIDS, you talk about getting diseases. Jesus, I can't believe it. It's crazy. I know when I was in Albany, I know, sorry, in Chelsea prison, in what, 76, 77, 76, yeah, and there was lots of drugs in there because I even took it myself. They gave me a pipe with opium black in it, not me boss right, but there was lots of drugs in there then. 76, 76. There was loads of drugs in prison then. I even took it, but I was on it myself. So much so, one pipe and I was dead. I was dead for about 2 days. But I mean, prison now is about drugs. They're never going to change it. It is what it is. This guy that I was talking to today, one of his boys, he's in debt, I mean, he phones his dad up. Asks his dad to send some money to someone's what you call it, someone's canteen money, you know, and their private cash, and he's sending 150 quid in there, you know. So his son's getting that sort of debt. 150. The old man reckons he's paying it every month, 150 quid or whatever it is, for his son to be on drugs. So what happens now? They're going in prison and they're coming out completely junkies, crackheads, charlieheads, brownheads, everything. They're coming out like that and they're going on the street and they can't survive on the street because things are too things to them. So they go out there, nick a big load of drugs, go in prison, come in there, earn themselves a bit of dough, and they don't, and just survive in prison. Prison's a lot easier for them in prison than what it is out prison. You know, in prison now, you get everything. You've got your DVDs, you've got your television, you've got your record players, or not so much the record players. They've got all sorts of games now. The games they play, they've got televisions, they've got phones in their cell, you've got quilts, covers, you've got quilts, you've got everything you name. You've got bedspreads, you've got pillowcases, you've got curtains, you've got everything. The only thing you ain't got in here is a woman, and a lot of them get women in there. Screws. I mean, the screws are going with geezers' eyes are winking in there for money. It's happening. I mean, I had girls on my podcast, about a year ago, just come out of Holloway or come out of one of them prisons, yeah. I don't think it's Holloway, it's Brunwick or something, another Nick. And there was guys in there, prison officers, that are getting hold of the birds in there. You know what I mean? I love, mind you, I'd love it myself if I could do that, mate. Of course, it's too much, isn't it? But as I say, prisons changed. In my days, prison was prison. There was 40,000 when I was away. 40,000 prisoners. I think it's about, crikey, it's gone crazy now. There's about nearly 200,000 in it now. Something stupid like that. Prisons are absolutely corrupt because everybody's taking drugs, mate, and they don't want to come out. I mean, my mate who does podcasts with me, Christian Morgan, yeah, does excellent podcasts, KI on TV, and he's telling me sometimes he does podcasts with people come out of prison and cry to him that they want to go back. People that have done 10s and 12s and 15 years in prisons that can't cope on the street. They've got to go back because drugs is the most important part of it, yeah? They go back in prison and they can survive. They get everything they want and they can survive in prison better than they can on the streets. It's a bad one. That's so it's me. Good thing about me, mate, I didn't really took it once and that was it. The way I survived in prison was to train every day, 5, 6 days a week training, and that's it. And fighting. That was my thing because I knew when I get out I'd be doing it. I knew I'd be fighting, and I knew I'd be doing what I'm doing. Being an enforcer and being a bodyguard. That's what I could. That's all I could do. You know, and because of that, I stayed out. I stayed out of prison, mate. I kept my nose clean. I ain't got myself in no trouble. All I'm doing is my podcast. I'm not doing no gangsters and no villainy or nothing. Yeah, it ain't worth it to me no more. You know what I mean? Because the next time I go in, now I'm going to go in for a big, big, long time. This time's 10 stretch, mate. 10 been in 10 years. Done 10 years on the street. That's 20 years of an IPP. That's a lot of bird, mate. 20 years of an IPP. All told, all told, without this 10 years I've been out on the street, I've done 26 and a half years. So with that 10 years on the street, I've done 36 and a half years. That's a lot of bird, mate. And I'm still doing it today. I'm still doing it. It does look like I might get off of it. It does look like I could get off of it, but I don't think I'll ever get off it as such. I've got it retrospectively, I can't pronounce it, but I got it, and I've got it, yeah. And there's quite a few people in there now still in prison doing IPPs. Some have done 19 years for nicking a mobile phone. Some's done 20 years of having a fight with their dad, their father-in-laws, and all that sort of thing. But this IPP is stopped now. But if you got it, you got it, and they're forgetting about people that are stuck in there, and people have got to get out. Yeah, me and Fish, we was lucky. We was one of the first, more or less the first ones to get IPP. So we had all the chances in the world to get the courses and doing the courses and getting out. Yeah. So I'm glad that, I mean, I'm a bit I was very dyslexic, yeah, but I learnt to more or less read, more or less write. I had to get out, mate. I didn't want to stay in them places. I didn't like it, mate. The only thing, as I say, the only thing I liked about prison was the training, the gym. That's all I did, and the kitchen. I've been very lucky whilst I've been in prison. I've always either been a gym orderly or I've worked in the kitchen. So the two good jobs, two jobs that you want, you've got to get. You know what I mean? And that was me. In prison, I've had maybe 100 fights in prison, maybe even more. Sometimes you got to remember, after 26 years, the amount of fights I've had is unbelievable. You know what I mean? I mean, when I'm on YP, I used to have maybe 4 fights every week, maybe even more, on YP. YP's a funny old guy. Ballstall, when my ballstalls, mate, we used to fight 24/7. Ball stores was nothing about, not all it was about being the boss, you know. And ball stores, don't bet, ball stores were really hard in my days. Portland ball store, you know, and Rochester Recall was even worse. I was on there. The screws are the ones that bash you up in there, mate. You ain't got no chance in Portland and Rochester. You had no chance. Screws would kill you. But I used to fight all the time amongst each other, and it was testosterone, isn't it? Crazy on testosterone, you know what I mean? Fighting like lunatics. And I loved it. When I got to my YP, I was having lots of fights in my YP, loads of fights. And I just loved fighting. I loved it. I loved it, you know. I, I was always boxing as a child, as a kid, always fighting, boxing, going down big gyms, sparring professional fighters, going to bigger gyms and sparring with professional fighters, and I never left it out. I just kept doing it, mate. I loved it, you know. And all my life I've been fighting. All my life, boxing with prisons, boxing in fairs, boxing everywhere. You know what I mean? Fighting everywhere, and that's my life. That's why my reputation is all about fighting, and I've always had that sort of name. Now, mate. Now I just want to lay back and do my book. My book's nearly done now. Um, and just do this podcast. Just crack on like this, really. Hoping to do promotions. Joe Smith, well, Bugden Joe Smith, you know, and Matt Legg. We're gonna, and myself, and maybe a couple of other people are going to get into this promoting game and do our own promoting fights. I think we're a bit of business. I mean, I've done, as I said before, I've done promoting fights. I've done mine the same time as Frankie Warren. Look at Frankie Warren now. He's a top professional, professional. What's the name? Doing all promote. He's a promoter, top promoter. And Frankie Warren used to do unlicensed fighting with me, same as me. It's unlicensed fighting, and look where he is today. You know, look at Barry Earn. Barry Earn's the same, mate. Barry Earn was doing other things just before me. I mean, I know Barry Earn through Mickey Gooch, you know, and I mean, crazy. It's all mad how forward they've come and how backward I've come. So now it's my turn to go forward, yeah? Anyway, this is Ray Bang Bang Hill. Please press the like button and subscribe, yeah? Have a nice day, yeah? Bye bye. Have a nice evening.